Hello, Bingies. Welcome to BingeWorthy, part of the Geekish Network. We binge a show to let you know if you should. I'm your host, Rakai Newt from the Ville. Hello, Governor. And today with me, we have Miss Catherine. Say hello to the people, Catherine.
Hello, live from Memphis at Bevo.
That's
Colorful
right. Barbecue food.
Barbecue, yeah, Memphis.
It's
And
gonna
then
be
we
known as
also,
for Bevo soon.
Yep, Bevo.
yeah.
Bevo right here, yep.
And then we also have Mr. Johnny Randolph. Randy, say hello to the people.
What it do, people?
All right. And finally, but not the least of us, the best of us, OG, triple OG, Mr. Charles Babb. Chuck, say hello to the people.
What's up, people? What's up?
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
No. Oh,
That's right.
okay. All right. We
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
different tonight. All right.
Wait till I start singing.
Then we will
Start
cut
get
the
these two
stream off
girls to come on
immediately.
my
We will
arm.
cut it off so we don't get fined.
Hold
Start
on.
wait till these two girls come on my arm.
You missed out. You missed out a whole
Inside joke,
conversation.
inside
Rakai.
joke.
No, I was in the car. I was stuck in traffic. I heard that madness to turn the NBA into the
It's
WWE.
WWE,
I heard
baby.
it. I heard it. I
Yeah,
heard it.
I would watch basketball.
It would make
Yeah.
it would make it better. It would make it
Yeah.
better.
We got it. You know what I'm saying? All you gotta do is get Draymond Green to do more. You know, we got sniper. Anyway, listen, everybody is here with us tonight. Let's see how they did pull me down into the rabbit hole. No, we are here to talk about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, a Disney Plus Marvel project. Now, if you're an audience member, feel free to communicate with us. This series explores Peter Parker's origin story, but different than what we've heard and seen before, in the early days of Spider-Man, and is set in an alternate timeline from the main films and television series of the MCU. where Norman Osborn becomes Peter's mentor instead of Tony Stark. Now, our wonderful, wonderful technical producer, Mr. Rodney Kajudo, post the cast members' ratings. And the way that we normally do this is we are going to give a rating for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Then we'll have our discussion and we will re-rate the show at the end just to see if anyone's changed their mind based on our discussion. So Rodney, what did the good people, what did we come up with? All right, we have 3 full meals and a binge worthy. So that puts us still not quite over the hump, but it puts us real close to a full meal. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Randolph. You gave it a binge worthy. You care to explain, sir?
I did. I thought this was the best Marvel post Endgame series that we've gotten. Well, I don't say X-Men because it's playing on its own field. They're professionals. But yeah, this story kicked off an amazing universe. And I know you said it's in an alternate timeline than what we have in our world, but it gave us origin stories of Peter Parker, different timelines. We got some great, fascinating cameos and crossovers. It was fast paced. I was worried about origin story because I mean we've seen the Spider-Man origin story so many times, but I thought it added a fresh perspective. All the people were in Harlem and they were black. I mean, it was just super fun. Like I was really enthralled by this whole series, and that was my reason for a binge out.
Okay. Chuck, I'm gonna go to you. You gave it a full meal.
Yes, I give it a full meal. I think it's a really strong series. I do like the fact that it's an alternate version of the original time of the Golden Timeline. It's not the MCU timeline, but it may be connected. We're not sure. Nobody knows. I do like the characterizations of this. The dialogue was really strong in this series, and it's the small details of the animation. It looks like a comic book, yet the animation doesn't feel like a comic book sometimes. Because you see characters doing things in the scene that will be static usually, and it's really I found it very very interesting. And I enjoyed the series. I thoroughly enjoyed the series. I was on the fence between binge out and full meal. I literally watched this in like 2 days.
Okay.
So, and I watched it after work. So, yeah, I think this is a very strong series.
Okay. Miss Catherine, what about your rating, ma'am?
So I gave it a full meal, and I kind of tiered between like a normal full meal and a low full meal. Um, or yeah, full meal.
A mini meal?
Mid or yeah, yeah. I mean, still with it like yeah, like mini meal, full meal. I like the character design style. It's great. The character design looks great. I feel like some of the dialogue was a bit weird in parts. Maybe I know this is for a lower age range, so that might be why it kind of bothered me a little bit. Like some of the characters just went a little overboard sometimes. The animation, like visually, the designs are great. It does that weird, like I know this is their 3D models that are made to look 2D, and that can work and sometimes not work in certain sequences. And so for me, like I sometimes just like them better, like if it was 2D completely animated, but I understand in some parts why you have 3D and it's like it's easy, it's probably lower, maybe not lower budget, but like probably easier to do certain sequences with 3D. Um, but I do like this world a lot. I know they intended for this to come out before Homecoming, and it was supposed to be the Homecoming, like not this exact version, but they're going to do like a Homecoming, like this was like a precursor to Homecoming, but that changed. So I think, but this take is very fascinating and interesting, and I like the interpretations. I also just like even some of the references to like being black in this world and different cultures. And there's definitely like some interesting like mature moments. But I enjoyed it. I watched it week by week because I think it came in batches of 3 episodes. And but overall good. Just some small nitpicks with dialogue and uh, just the 3D animation made to look 2D. So
Okay. All right. Outstanding. It's funny listening to you guys' rationales for your scores made me think about my score. And I literally, before I sent my score to Rodney today, I was like you, Catherine. I was like, is it a mini meal or a full meal. Like binge-worthy never even came into my mind. Um, I I was really close to giving a mini meal, and I was like, no, you know what? I do want to support this, um, especially in the world we're living in now. They took away all things DEI just because it's a taboo word for some odd reason or whatever. So, but I was like, I did like the amount of diversity was in this. I did like it's an alternate timeline, and we have a new, fresh perspective on it. I'm sick of redoing origin tales, but to see Batman Year One. So Spider-Man, the original series was supposed to be called Spider-Man Freshman Year, and it got revamped and turned into this. Um, and yeah, it would. This was supposed to have been out years ago. Um, but with the deal that Marvel sometimes has and sometimes doesn't have with Sony, it changed the perspective on what they could and what they couldn't do. Um, I and so that was kind of dialogue in places was clunky, and there were some things that it started off fresh and then it fell into stereotypical stuff, and I was just like, really, what are we doing? I really did like the animation style. I thought that the 2D, the 3D, to look like 2D, but it looked like comic book panels, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. There were certain places where they intentionally made it look like a comic book panel, and I thought that was great. Um, it just the story when it moved, it moved. When it didn't, it was stuck in quicksand. So just um, going off of our rationales, let's talk about character development, which is going to be real important because we're talking about a young version of Spider-Man. If you think back to the comic books, we, for the majority of the time, we got the young Spider-Man in high school. Um, so this is freshman. So just think about this Spider-Man we're dealing with is 14 years old. He is a freshman in high school. Uh, let's talk about character development and the plot. So how did the plot, this story that they came up with in this alternate timeline, did it work for us? And anybody can jump in here.
I think it worked. I think it was fair to do how they did it. I was worried about this because I'm going to see Uncle Ben get killed, and it's going to be like, no, you know, great strength comes with great responsibility or some shit like that being said. I was like, oh my God, we're going to get this all over again. And then when it started up, and the first thing you see is Strange coming through a portal, and it's a different Strange. It's a stranger that we don't know which world he's really from, and why he was there. I thought that was unique to kick it off, and it made me think about where how did and that the whole entire how this whole thing plays out is very interesting. I thought the characters were really good in it. I thought when they introduced Nico, and I was like, "Is that Nico from the Runaways?" That's the
Hmm.
first thing I thought.
Me
And then I
too.
was like, "It looks like Nico from the Runaways." I was like, "It is Nico from the Runaways." And I
Hmm.
remember this Runaways series, and I was like, "That is definitely her." And then as her story unravels, you realize who it is. I think they had a lot of origin stories, not just for Spider-Man, but a lot of the characters in Spider-Man's universe, from
And
Rhino
I
to.
do, I
Mhm.
did want to remind the people this that are watching with us that on Bingeworthy, we are a spoiler-free show.
I'm
So even though
sorry.
you hear, even
Absolutely.
though you hear, we're gonna say some stuff that might skirt over it seem like it's spoilery, but we're not trying to spoil anything for you. But
Yeah.
we do want to describe the characters. We do want to talk about the plot itself and how it moved along. And he's right. Remember, we're on an alternate timeline. Now, I think that's why it's important that Chuck mentioned the stuff that he mentioned, just because this is not the MCU that you're used to.
Hmm.
So if all your whole reference of Spider-Man is from the movies, and maybe even some of the television shows, this is something different.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Chuck. So,
Oh no. So I was looking at some of the characterizations, and this is origin story for a lot of characters for Spider-Man in this alternate universe, and I was like,
mm-hmm,
this is fascinating. This is interesting because like, there's no characters lost here.
mm-hmm,
Everybody has a purpose and why they're there, and I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, they
okay.
need to. Yeah, and when you're talking about this is a completely different from the MCU, you don't have to watch prior movies or shows to watch this. That's I guess that's my issue with some of the MCU shows. I have to watch so many shows to figure out what's happening, or you can come in fresh, which is great. Yeah, I guess I can just jump in, but I also agree. Like I think the character development with Spider-Man, even though like I do get annoyed with some of his dialogue and he's just kind of a little dense at times, and I'm like, all right, I get you're 14, but you can't just be doing this here. Like you live in a world with smartphones and cameras. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I do like this world, the character development. I know I mentioned that I know this is more character development focus, but I do like this kind of Jack Kirby 1960s, but kind of modern day vibe, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. And I felt like there's small elements of that even in just like some of the characters, but more modern day. Maybe that's just me looking at it from a visual design perspective. But yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. I like
Randy.
that it felt organic to kick off this universe. Everything in it felt natural and not forced. Like this Spider-Man in this universe would have all of these interactions with these characters, and that felt refreshing and fresh to me. Nothing felt forced in it. I could see everything happening the way that it was. So I really enjoyed that, and some of those cameos were really fun. There's one with a hero that hasn't really been in the MCU, but he's been around, and it's a great fight scene with that character. How he pulls up and he sells them like, "Oh, you seem trained," and he's like, "Oh, you don't." But I liked all those organic interactions that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also
Um,
oh,
Go ahead, Catherine. Go ahead.
part of it also reminded me of the '90s animated series where cameos kind of came in.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like when this happened, it as you mentioned was smoother. So
Yeah, I think for me the '90s series was great. It had all these cameos, but they seemed cheap.
Yep,
mhm.
They
they were
seem just
forced. Yep,
and it's almost like when we do, hey, we're gonna do a villain of the
yep,
week story, and guess what? Not only are we gonna have a villain of the week, we're gonna have a surprise pop-up hero of the week.
yep.
To lend a hand to Spider-Man because he needs so much damn help. And I'm just like, I don't want that. Um, this in the very early on, the first few episodes, it was not working for me. The first episode I thought was great. To lean in to see how we got to him being Spider-Man and a lot of the things that happened in that first episode, I was like, even as a matter of fact, the villain monster in the first episode, I was like, is that because it looks like a classic Spider-Man villain, but there's some things that are so changed. I was like, I don't know if that is or it isn't. Um, and since we already alluded to, there's a cameo in there by Doctor Strange, but it is not the Doctor Strange that we're used to. And there are several other characters, um, and I don't think I'm giving away, but I won't say him by name. Chuck already said that we see Nico from The Runaways. And I know that Runaways, even though it had a TV show that was on for two seasons, a lot of people, if you didn't read the comic books, a lot of people are not familiar at all with the Runaways and their cast of characters. What were their powers? What do they do? Nico was known as Sister Grimm, and she had some powers, kind of the occult, maybe. And it's just more on the fantastical side of things. And I know that a lot of times, especially in the MCU, they have went out of their way to shy away from that, and they kind of leaned into it with Scarlet Witch and the WandaVision and with the Doctor Strange movies, but they were really just testing it out. They've been kind of scared of the supernatural, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
There were a lot of other cameos, and if you're familiar with Spider-Man, especially from the movies, a lot of the people that you assume that you would see in this, they're not there. You ain't gonna see them. So you're like, wait, where is her? And where is she? And where is he? They not here. Now, if you're familiar with the comic books, there's a plethora of characters all over that you'll hear the names and you'll see some characters. Wait a minute. I know who that is. They become, yeah, they here. And it was very interesting the way that they did this. I did like the way that they moved some of the characters, except for I did not like this slow telling of uh Peter's good friend in high school. I don't want to get into it, but his good friend in high school who decided to leave high school to do other endeavors. I didn't like that. I didn't like that shit at all. It went st it started strong and then it went stereotypical and I was like,
Yeah.
why do we need this? Like there's another way that they could have told that story. I thought it was interesting that they included that character to tell the story. Um, but it's just
Yeah. Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Catherine.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Like, yeah, I liked that character until like they did this thing, and I'm like, oh no.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, it
It's kind of
was.
heartbreaking.
It absolutely was.
It was one of the most promising characters. I don't know a lot about that character in comic book. I know who he is in comic book and in the games, in the
Yeah,
Sony PlayStation games.
yeah. I think
He's just a badass
he's
in the
in
game.
the first
First
Spider-Man
game.
game or the Miles Morales game. I know he's in the first Spider-Man game, I think.
Spider-Man
So,
game, first
yeah.
Spider-Man game. And I liked him there. I liked what he represented, but how they did his origin story with him, I thought it was very interesting.
So is
Like
this different for his origin story? Because I'm not familiar with this character.
I think so. I think it's
And
completely different.
I liked it from the perspective you said it like I thought it was heartbreaking because I didn't expect for it to turn that way. So it kept it
Yeah.
interesting for me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't remember, and I could be completely wrong, but it just seemed like that again, alternate universe, so they're able to tell whatever stories they want to, and these people don't have to line up as far as age. But this character, I guess, was a senior, maybe,
Yeah, he was
and
definitely
Yeah.
older. He was
yeah,
definitely
he
Yeah.
older.
was, yeah, because well, he was talking about where his path was supposed to go in the first couple episodes, and it completely was derailed. So I'm thinking he's is at least a junior, but he was probably a senior, I think, on his way to bigger, better. Um, which it was weird. Well, I guess
Hmm.
not weird because Peter's so smart. Of course, he's in a higher, uh, you know, science
Great
class or
science
whatever. Yeah.
class. Yeah.
Um, I don't
And
remember in the
and this
comic books
character
them
is
being
smart.
friends though.
Then they weren't friends.
Yeah.
They're associates though. They Peter does. Peter's villains are very interesting because he's very friendly with his villains.
Yeah. But
He's not like Batman.
I thought that that character was maybe several years older than him, older than
Hmm.
what it shows on this show, and I
Hmm.
thought that when they talked about that character's backstory some that him going on the path that he started out with and very reminiscent of Cyborg in DCU
Hmm.
in DC um that he went to a completely different school like and you got to think about his character came out of the 70s 80s so yeah they wrote some back then some
Yeah.
stereotypical
Bad,
he
bad,
came
bama
out the
jamma.
hood and yeah
Yeah.
yeah
Jive turkey.
that's how the later episodes felt to me. Like I felt like the dialogue was gonna slip, and he's like, you suckers better run, jab turkey fools.
Yeah,
So it's like,
especially that one character. And I'm like, oh no, I feel like this is like Def Jam Fight for New York, but like over
it,
exaggerated.
oh, I said that. Me and Centel were doing a reaction to it, and I was like, look at the way this is anime right now. I said, this is Def Jam Fight for New York, Def Jam Vendetta. I was like, hell,
Hmm.
I want to play now because
Yeah,
I got Suge Knight vibes from him.
he did, but it
Y'all talking about
still
Big
looked
Donovan?
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when they had the big fight scene, I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
this is Def Jam right here."
Yeah,
yeah,
I think they really thought about him being like Suge Knight. What was interesting when Lonnie was on the phone, and he was talking to I think his talking to Pearl, and they
Hmm.
were in the hideout. The animation that was done on everybody's face as he was talking to his girlfriend, how he was acting, I thought that was so well done. I thought
Yeah,
that was very, very well done.
there
That's what
there
made
was
me
a
like
lot
the
of
animation because it's like
nuances
little
in this
details in the
that
background
made
they
it
did.
it could have very easily went over into cringe, but the
Yes.
way they did some things, especially things in the background, made it uh
Yeah. It made
made it
everybody feel
workable.
human.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody felt human.
yeah,
Um, but there's a lot of things they did to characters I didn't like. There's a lot of changes they did to characters from the comic books. Like Tombstone in the comic books has albinism,
yeah.
That's
so he's naturally just white skinned.
well. I'm curious what's going to happen in the next season
Yeah.
because there's a lot that can happen between now and then. Similar to other
Mhm.
villains, they slowly evolve into something else.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's gonna
Yeah,
be
and
interesting.
we began to see his evolution, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, but his his character is pretty much, or I think the clone of his character was what is dude's name? There was in the
Clone
Black
this year.
Lightning series, the DC Black Lightning series. The
I
the
Yes.
main
Yeah.
villain
oh the
was
albino
like,
guy.
The
yeah,
albino guy in Black
yeah,
Lightning.
because he's real life albino. But that character in the comic books, um, is was basically because DC and Marvel have forever cloned each other's characters or
I
whatever.
mean,
Krondon.
And
but also
yeah,
Jack. I mean
yeah, I
Jack.
think that's his real name though.
What?
Because Randy said Crondon or Crodon or something like that. Like
Krondon.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's I think that's his last name in real life. I can't
That's his
remember
real
the
life.
name
Yeah.
of
when
his character on the show, but he was basically the mimic, the clone of
Tobias
Tombstone.
Whale.
Tobias Well, yes. He
well,
was the clone of Tombstone in the DC side.
that's kind of ironic considering like the visuals for this show are inspired by Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby left Marvel to work on New Gods, so
Hmm.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just thought that was interesting when you're bringing up copying and it's just artists and writers switch from Marvel to DC. So you have people who
Mm.
wanted to sell their story for Marvel but couldn't, and then changed it to DC. Um,
Well, they say that imitation is the highest form of flattery.
mhm.
So Marvel, or Timely Comics back in the 1940s had this character, the Submariner, Namor. Um, so it wasn't before long before the Detective Comics came out with this character that they're gonna call Aquaman. He talks to the fishes. And the thing is, it's went back and forth for years. Sometimes you don't know which one came first, or which one's the copy, or the copy might have got more popular than the one who's original. It depends on, if you're a DC person, a Marvel person, whatever. But they've done that with is almost any character you can think of. There is a clone of them on the other side.
Yeah, I do have a question. In terms of this story or this like version of Spider-Man, is there a comic version of this that exists? Because I'm not as familiar with Marvel comics than I am as DC, so I didn't know many of the uh, villains or heroes mentioned outside the well-known ones.
Um, Here's the thing. It's unless you are extremely caught up on the comics, it's almost impossible to say. I'm not aware of one. That does not mean that there isn't one. Because 20, 30 years ago, they branched off and started doing the Ultimates. And Marvel did the Ultimates, which was basically their alternate timeline, and they kind of revamped some stories and did things because they were skewing for a younger market. The
Yeah,
thing is, you know, I remember when I was a little kid having Spider-Man comics or whatever, so by the time you hit the 90s, they're like comics at that time too are starting to fall off. The comics are declining. So they say, you know what, we need to refresh this. We need to bring in some new blood. Um, and we're talking about before the Tobey Maguire movies,
well,
'cause that was a
the,
whole different thing.
the Ultimates came out, or at least I had Ultimate Spider-Man that came out right before the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out because I
Hmm.
was obsessed. I was not a Marvel fan, but I was obsessed with the first uh, Spider-Man movie. To the point where I was actually grabbing a comic and just had that volume one.
Yeah, and that was the difficult position, and because really until Blade,
Yep.
until the X-Men, until Spider-Man, no comic movie was successful except for
Batman.
wait,
Okay.
the original Superman movies, And there was probably no better one than the original 1978 Superman movie was absolutely fantastic. Even though I am more a fan of the second one with the Zod in them. You know, you will bow to Zod. Like, excellent. Excellent. The first and second Superman movies, DC was kicking butt, taking names. Then you had the Michael Keaton Batman movies. Great. Then they did some more Batman movies allegedly. I heard someone
Schumacher.
say that.
Good old Schumacher and the Greek god
Yeah.
nipples, the bat nipples.
Oh
But as a
God.
kid, I liked that Batmobile, and as a kid, I'm like, ooh, Seal, and
Yeah.
this Jim Carrey.
Yeah. The first Batman movie, I mean, even had Prince did the entire soundtrack. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah,
okay,
Making
wow.
making magic. That's what we were doing. We were
They
making
was.
magic.
They
yeah.
Don't you
was.
question that
Because as
movie?
weird as it was, it worked. It's
That movie
crazy.
was amazing. Jack
But
Nicholson was the greatest Joker ever.
but
No, I don't know about that.
we also had the animated Batman that came out in the early '90s.
It
Yes.
came
Yeah,
out right
and
after
the
the first
Batman, the
Batman movie.
animated series is goated. It is one
Oh
of
yeah,
the
Yeah.
best animated series of all time. Like,
Kevin
Mark
Conroy.
Mark Mark came in the chat and he's right. No Val Kilmer slander.
oh, I would never slander Val Kilmer.
And nor
He
George
shouldn't.
Clooney.
He shouldn't have been Batman.
Oh, it must be
George
George
Clooney.
Clooney
George
slander.
Clooney shouldn't have been Batman. But I will
What
not
do you
slander them
mean?
two
He's the best
men.
George Clooney Batman we would ever get from a
No,
George
he was a
Clooney.
good. He should have been a good Bruce Wayne. There was no reason for George Clooney to ever be
George Clooney.
Batman.
George Clooney
George Clooney
is
has only
Bruce
played
Wayne
one
in real
character
life. Like,
ever.
That's
except
what I'm
for being a
saying. He's
billionaire,
right.
George
He
Clooney
is
is Bruce
Bruce
Wayne.
Wayne in real life. He should have not been Batman.
We could say that by a number of characters that played Batman. They're
Mhm.
great Bruce Waynes, horrible Batmans. Great Batmans, horrible Bruce Wayne.
Michael
Hmm.
Keaton nailed it. Val Kilmer was decent.
No, I think the thing about Michael Keaton is, and we have that a bit of nostalgia, is
We're going off the
because
rails.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
it was just of the time. We loved that.
Yeah, we
You
are.
know, the
We get
thing
back to Spider-Man.
to Captain's point, the problem with the Ultimate Universe was that when the movies came out and they hit, everyone ran to go grab a Spider-Man comic. But then you start reading the comic, like, wait, this shit ain't like the movies. Like, what is this? Like, this is completely different. They were not in alignment there. And Marvel had to scramble to do something to capitalize off the movies. They loved people coming in to buy more comics. Um, Nobody really came in and bought more Blade comics, even though Blade saved the whole studio. Um, but between X-Men and Spider-Man, comics were flying off the shelves, but they weren't aligned to the movies, and they had
No.
to fix that. And
Yeah.
so, to your point, Catherine, there are so many what if and ultimate and different versions. Who knows? There may be a version of this out there. I just never read it, and
That's kind of like even Western comics. Like when I was trying to pick up comics, I was so confused because I would find so many versions of comics and not knowing, okay, it's not a sequential comic like, if you go to like manga and like it's more sequential, but like in terms of American comics, it was like, oh, here's zombies or dinosaurs, or maybe it's a Sandman version of Batman, but and so that kind of turned me off to comics initially, but I still don't read a lot of comics, and there's still only particular comics I like to read. But it kind of grew on me on some ends.
That
here's the crazy thing. The last time I was in a comic book store and seriously asked, I mean, I go to the comic store every year without fail for free comic book day, which is the first Saturday in May. Nationwide, free comics at your place that have comics. Last time I went in and really asked, like, I don't know, maybe I had the kids with me or something. I asked about Spider-Man. No lie. There were probably at least 20 different Spider-Man titles. You
mhm.
had Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Man Team Up, What If Spider-Man, Spider-Man and his friends, Spider-Man and the Spider Dog. Like, you're just
Mhm.
like, what in the hell?
Mhm.
I,
That's
and it's like you ask somebody and they can't even give you a competent answer about where you want to get in. You literally have to have an afternoon, have some time to go in there and be like, I think I like this. And just it
yeah.
And
You
that
base it on
is another thing that pushed people away from the comic book stores because it's too much. It's too much.
Mhm.
yeah.
Batman's similar.
Wait,
Not,
what you
maybe
say?
not the same, but he's similar.
He's
Oh
similar.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
he's got
He's got detective. He's got Batman series. He's got a bunch of them.
Batman is worse. You know
Yeah.
why? Because all the Robins, all of his sidekicks, they also got their own several books.
Yep.
We yeah, but a lot has to do with too is based on the author, right? Everything's based around the author. So they'll be like, this author's gonna write this one. So I look for Michael Bendis on everything.
Oh yeah,
I
Michael
like
Bendis is
all his
great.
comic books. So
Michael
whatever
Bendis, J.
Spider
Michael
Man he's writing,
Straczynski.
because he helped build Miles. He created Miles.
Mm-hmm.
So just the fact I go for authors. I don't go for the name of the books. What author did what? Because they did license them all. And that was one of Marvel's failings, right? They realized there's different audiences for all these comic books and all these authors and all these artists. So they gave them a title and said, "Make your version of this."
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, "You know what?" Then one of the authors be like, "I know that author. Let's do a crossover. You write a
Yep.
couple pages for me, I write a couple pages for you, and we cross our characters in the universes." And it messes
Yep.
everything up. Now they don't involve the MCU universe in the comic books. They just had their own little things going on, but they're talking about bringing all that stuff together, lining all of it. I don't understand how they're going to do it.
Well, and that's part of the problem too. Like you said, Chuck, the original 22 movies of the MCU, they purposely talked about it basically as one super long crossover. Everybody kind of everything jive with everything else. And even though I may not have had your character in my book or my movie, everything jived and it was
Mm-hmm.
part of this plot to we're gonna keep kicking the can down the road. Now we're at the point too, and why people are kind of out of whack with the MCU is they went for quantity over quality,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
the people who are making the movie are not fans of the project. They're not fans of the source material. They haven't read any of the source material. Hell, I don't even know if they read the script. I don't know what the hell they making a movie about. Like, you know,
Hey, the mortgage payments is due, and they like, I need a job.
Yes.
yeah,
Damn, I need to do.
Yeah. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to turn the movies and television into the comic book universe.
Yeah.
So they're like, we want it sprawling. This stuff is slightly connected. That's how we keep everybody in tune with it. Because we told people these are really separate stories in their own universes, people would check out quicker.
But they
So to keep
were.
them checked in, we tell them they're loosely connected through one single universe.
But
The
that's why we
Magic
called the
Timeline, as
MCU the
Centel would say.
MCU. It was the Marvel Cinematic Universe that was not the same as
Yes.
the comics. That was
Yes. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe pulled characters from all kinds of comic books. Like
yeah,
they used
right.
Ultimate Iron Man. That's the Ultimate
mm-hmm,
Universe's version of Iron Man.
yeah,
Slightly tuned down though. He's tuned down.
mm-hmm,
You know, he went out there just a man whoring like he did in the Ultimate Universe.
yeah,
And then they pulled in like Amazing Captain America. And they pulled
mm-hmm.
in Spectacular Spider-Man.
And
They
then
pulled in
and then they all also the MCU decided they made a decision to steer away from some of the stronger storylines in some of the people's individual books. Like even though his character wasn't super interesting, especially in the comics, uh Tony Stark, Iron Man, had some of the best storylines outside the X-Men. Tony Stark dealt with some real stuff. Like he was a billionaire and went broke, like lost everything and built it back up. He had addiction problems. Like they dealt with some heavy stuff. And it's like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do none of that, you
not
know.
gonna
No.
do any of that. Ultimate Timeline. Yeah.
MCU is not gonna make Tony Stark was not gonna make Tony Stark broke.
It's not gonna
And
make Robert
Or
addiction.
Downey Jr.
make him
broke.
an alcoholic.
No,
Like,
they're not going to do that.
yeah, like he one of his strongest storylines ever, one of the best comics ever done about Tony Stark was was like Demon in a Bottle or something.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
They like, we got about 10 billion on this dude. We are not about to make him a drunk. That's
No,
not.
no, no, no. This is in the beginning, Randy. They would have done it in the very beginning. If they would have
Yeah.
followed it. This is before they made an Iron Man movie.
Hey Trey.
Hey, what's going
Hey,
on,
what's
everybody?
going on,
I'm just
Trey?
soaking in all of this, all of this amazingness in this comic
Yeah,
knowledge because I'm
yeah.
not as savvy as you all. So I'm just like I'm over
Yeah,
here.
just to catch you up right quick, sir. So when we did our rating in the beginning, me, Chuck, and Catherine all were a full meal. Randy was a binge-worthy himself.
Your
And
rating.
really, we just been kind of chopping it up, talking about the plot and the character development and stuff. So we were about to jump into, um, memorable characters or memorable scenes.
Okay. All right. All right. I
What's
feel
your
that.
rating, Centel?
I'd probably give that. I sat on it for a little bit. I'd probably give it a mini meal.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. Let me be clear. I didn't hate it, but after a little bit of time has passed, I don't find myself like reminiscing, with
okay.
like other projects, and you're like, dang, I remember when this happened. It feels like something I just watched, and
Not
it's like, okay,
ruminating
that
with
happened,
you?
and I kept it moving. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
and here's the interesting thing. So me and Catherine said what you just said, that we were real close. We, were kind of teeter-tottering on mini meal and full meal. And I'm not sure, Catherine had her own reasons for going with full meal, and I went with a full meal just because I was like you said, it's been some time since I watched it. I'm not, you know, not over here obsessing about it, not thinking about it,
Yeah.
not really suggesting it to that many people, but I wanted to win.
Yeah.
Just the amount of diversity in it, and I was like, what I'm saying? I was like, you know what? I'm gonna slide right into the basement level of a full meal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You know what's funny about this, like the diversity element? The voice actor who plays Spider-Man was like, "Oh man, yeah, this project's not woke."
Yeah.
Why would you?
Well,
do
no,
that?
he said
Just
he
keep
said
your
he
mouth
didn't.
shut.
He said when he got the script, he didn't want it to be woke.
Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
like it is it is by definition woke.
It's
It
woke as
costs you
hell.
nothing to just keep your mouth shut. If that's how you feel, just
He's
tip it.
he's
All right,
young.
we
And,
Take your
killing the
check.
word woke.
Just collect your check.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
he's-
killing the
he's-
word woke.
Collect your check.
Going
he's young
forward.
and stupid, and he's like, wait a minute, I'm in Trump's America. I have to say what I want to say.
And it's
Good.
disappointing because his voice acting, even though I don't agree with him, his talent for playing
Was
Peter
good.
Parker was really good.
great.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like he didn't knock it out the park. He did. I thought he felt like Peter Parker, but then you say that, and then it's like, oh, just shut up.
You know, it's good. I don't have to see his face, so I just associate with like the 14-year-old kind of character in the show. So I don't know what he looks like. So that's
Well, apparently there's something wrong with this little Spider-Man dudes, because in real life, our Miles Morales then said some dumb stuff and got
He
himself
about to run the
canceled.
whole franchise.
So now everybody's looking at Tom Holland. Everybody looking at Tom Holland like, don't you say no dumb shit.
Right.
Don't
Tom
you say
Holland
nothing
just
stupid.
jumped.
Tom
Oh,
Holland's-
Zendaya is like, yeah, don't you?
Zendaya's
shut
like,
your
no, I
mouth.
got
Let me
this.
tell you
Tom
She said
Holland
no.
is the short
Messing up the
king.
money.
He is the short king. Like he.
Like if Tom Holland
Yeah.
and Zendaya ever separate, he's done.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
wrap.
He's
Oh, yeah.
done. It's worse than Taylor Swift. It's worse than Taylor Swift.
But to be
Yeah.
fair, they seem to have a loving, healthy relationship. He really loves this woman, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still Hollywood. That shit can go south.
He doesn't
at
have
any
a choice,
moment now.
Catherine. He doesn't
he
have a
does
choice.
like he just I don't know. He just there's a lot of green flags for me with Tom Holland. If it's fake, I like the story they're portraying, but you know what? They seem to really enjoy each other's company, and they're a bit more private about it too, which I like.
I do. I feel you on that. They don't really have their biz out in the street.
It
outside
it
of the
does
artistry,
seem that
their
way.
love for the artistry, and I respect that. Yeah.
It does seem that way,
Every
but I
now
know
and
what?
then, she's about
Zendaya
to
know how to
snatch
get
him
to that
up.
bag, though.
every now
Zendaya
and then,
knows
she's
how
about
to
to
get to
snatch
that
him up.
bag. Yeah.
Wait, who?
You hear Euphoria is back on, so I know we're going in the weeds, but
We've been in the weeds. We just got
We
through.
went.
Let's get out of
I'm
the
a
weeds.
Zendaya
Stay on the
fan.
Yeah,
show.
we probably need to talk about the actual show.
All right,
Yeah,
let's standout performances. What are some standout performances? Whether it's voice acting, a particular character, even the way a character was drawn, or the portrayal of that character in this alternate universe.
But I'ma
What
just
were the
snatch-
standouts for
I'm
you?
gonna snatch it real quick, just super quick. Yo, my man Coleman Domingo fit the waves perfectly.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
If you-
Listen,
Yes, man.
You
If
know,
gonna have
every morning when Norman-
Osborn with the waves.
Yes.
Norman
You
Osborn
need
woke up
Coleman
every
Domingo.
morning, and when he got to the lobby of the building of
His wave
the
cap
Osborn
on?
Tower, he said, "Wave check. Hold on, let me get my
Wave.
do
I
rag
mean,
off.
it makes
Wave
so
check."
for Osborn to be black. He has waves. It makes so much sense. So
It does. It
And
does.
Coleman got that gruff, you
That
know,
voice.
just
That voice.
yeah.
And what made it really good was that the art style lend itself back to the 90s Spider-Man.
Yep.
Like it was doing what Marvel 97 did and go back to that art style.
Now,
And
here's the
then
thing,
except
though.
we're gonna make it even more comic booky than that. Because last time I seen that art style was in Ace Bane videos.
Yeah.
But it's
Here's the thing, though. If you look at like you said, the 60s, those
Yep.
old versions
Jack
of
Kirby.
Norman Osborn, he looked exactly the same. He
Yep.
looked like a black man. It seemed like they were scared to color in his skin a little bit more. So he had the waves, like everything looked exactly the same, except he had the skin complexion to go with how he looked.
Yeah, it's the Jack Kirby style that they're referencing for all their character designs. It's very much like we're just gonna see. Hopefully, pulling up an image here works. Crap, he's too white in this. I'm sorry. You can see his hair at least, but yeah, I agree. I love Norman Osborn. This is such an interesting and refreshing take on this character. He's not as like crazy wild man and with yelling at a mask, but that's an interesting interpretation of Norman Osborn. But I really like this kind of, even the relationship between Peter Parker and Norman Osborn in this is very fascinating. So I like coming into this not knowing like what's going to happen next and seeing how it unfolds. It's not the typical Ben dies, Mary Jane, XYZ pipeline over and over again. So
were you, and this is for all of you, were you satisfied with the mentorship of Peter by Norman Osborn? Then, the MCU gave us the mentorship of Peter by Tony Stark. The comic books actually did have not so much the mentorship the way it's portrayed in this show, but Peter Parker was close to his best friend Harry and the Osborn family. Norman Osborn did kind of dote on Peter because he was
a scientist.
Yeah, and he was inquisitive and curious and a scientist and smart as hell, like
Harry
Norman
wasn't.
liked, and he really wanted Harry to be more like
Yeah.
Peter. So he kept Peter close. But depending on what property you've seen, it gets convoluted on, okay, did Norman have a relationship with his father Richard, or what is the thing going here? So were you guys, as opposed to the MCU, how did you take with the mentorship by Norman instead of Tony Stark?
I honestly like this more. I'm more interested in this version, the relationship between Norman Osborn and this. I know even in the Toby verse, there's a slight Norman Osborn thing, but because it's a movie and it's compressed, you didn't see as much of it. But I honestly prefer it. I think for me, honestly, Tony Stark was a bit distracting. Even though I like the Spider-Man movies that came out, I didn't really care for the Tony Stark Spider-Man relationship.
Okay.
Was it a mentorship though? I never got that impression between the relationship between Osborn and Peter was a mentorship. I thought he was literally using him. And maybe I'm basing it off of who I know Norman Osborn to be, but I thought he was leveraging what he knew. He was Spider-Man.
No, but he didn't know that at first. Remember when he showed up, when he was in the living room with May, he didn't know it.
He did know it. I thought he
gave him an internship.
That's why he recruited him to become to the internship. He based it down to the 6 people.
Yes, and he recruited all them smart kids for it. But I mean, it was still a mentorship. Like he took him under his wing. Even before,
but he knew
he found out. But when he found out, he was like, "Oh, we accelerate the plans, move in a whole different direction. I didn't know we could."
Figured one of them were going to be Spider-Man. I never got an impression of a mentorship.
I guess.
Yeah, it absolutely is that. I mean, these two things don't have to be exclusive. Both things can exist. Both things can exist. Peter absolutely believes that
I think Peter believes it, but I don't think that Norman is a mentor to Peter at all. He's using him.
That doesn't mean he's not a mentor.
I guess from the audience,
both things can exist.
I guess
He's mentoring to be his weapon.
I guess for me,
I guess if we take it that way,
Yeah.
I guess for me, like from the audience, like yeah, I know Harry Osborn, yeah, Norman Osborn, whatever, um, is like usually a villain. But if I didn't know that, or like whatever this version was, you see it as a mentorship, and I guess it's just the way how Norman Osborn is talking to Peter, and even him saving his son. Um, but as time goes on, and from like an audience that's not maybe aware of the comic book information, they'll like that kind of starts to.
And maybe that's where I had challenges with it because I know that. And,
And here, to that point, Catherine and Randy, that would have made the show amazing. If we who know who Norman Osborn is, we waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like, when's he gonna go full evil? When is he gonna get his evil on and really expose, what he's trying to do and using Peter and this whole thing, and it never drops? That would have been amazing. Because that would, what I'm saying, what preconceived notions we had, like this whole thing, when he finally started doing some more stuff that's self-serving stuff, we was like, yeah, I knew it all along. Like, I was just waiting for it to happen.
I think they should have waited till second season to do that.
Imagine if you watched, there was, I forget which one it was, Randy might know, there was a Justice League or DC property where it's like an alternate universe, and Lex Luthor came and asked the Justice League for help.
Yeah,
to fight against the Justice League in his world,
just
on
as
his
lords in his world.
Yeah, and they did what Batman always talks about. Y'all might do. Y'all might flip out and go evil. I got something for y'all. But the whole time, because they was like, wait a minute, we know Lex Luthor. Like, there ain't nothing good about you, dude. He's like, listen, I'm on another world. The evil people is y'all. The versions of y'all on my world, they the ones that's bad. And I think for this to have been a alternate timeline, that would have been interesting to see. No, Norm Osborn is always on the up and up, but it is what it is.
Great question, or has a thing.
When it comes to Osborn, I like what they're doing with Osborn. To me, it feels kind of like a lot like X-Men 97 with the whole campaign that Magneto was right. Magneto is the bad guy in contemporary form. Well, he's the antagonist, not a bad guy. He's the antagonist. And I think right now Osborn is not a villain yet. He has villain tendencies. I think he's got billionaire tendencies. I think that he's absolutely going to use the asset that what Peter is to his advantage. But I also think that he's going to let me pull your coattails and let me put you on game too as well. Because like Magneto was right in X-Men 97, there's a lot of things that he's saying that's not wrong. It's sketchy, but it's not wrong. And one of the big ones was, with great power comes great respect. That's a bar. That's a bar. I feel that. It makes people feel uncomfortable. But you're not lying. Now, if he's going to turn around and turn full villain, that's yet to be determined. And we've seen this done before in Smallville with Lex Luthor. He wasn't always he was Superman's best friend in Smallville, and then we saw the small downfall. But I think it eventually will have to happen if he's going to become the Goblin, and we'll see where that goes. And maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But right now, what Coleman Domingo is doing with the space that this character is providing, with the relationship that he has with Peter, I think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting is how this aligns with the comic books. So Norman and Peter are intricately tied together in the comic books. Even when Peter dies and comes back, Norman dies too, and they come back together. So in the Miles Morales comic books, when he comes back, Peter just shows up. And he is like, what? You're dead. And he says, no, I'm here. And you explain why, because him and Norman are tied together. But I think it falls in that, it's going to fall in that realm. There's something going to happen to Norman's son, Harry, and it's going to cause him to change into the Goblin to go against Spider-Man.
Which hasn't that been consistent? Like in the 97 Spider-Man, like Ricardo alluded to a little earlier, they had a good relationship.
Yes.
Peter and Norman had a good relationship. Yeah, he trusted him vastly more than Harry because of his intellect, and at its nature, like Norman Osborn is a scientist and a tech genius. and he found like Peter, Kendrick's son, like the son that he wanted in Peter. So like,
Yep.
I guess, and you guys may be right. Maybe I'm seeing it in my mind. Like, nah, Norman is up to being Norman, and it could not be. But that's just how I saw it. So
Yeah,
I took
and
everything
I
as
think,
not being earnest.
and that's the curse of having advanced knowledge. Like you
Yeah,
know that he's a bad guy. You just waiting on him to do
yeah.
full-time bad guy shit. And right now he's only clocking in about an hour or so. He's doing real part-time bad guy stuff. You're like, I need you to go and get the whole shift in, my dude. Like,
Yeah, I guess for me it's like also when Peter saved his son, and like he, you know, outside of the weird shady stuff, he really was happy that he saved his son. And I guess there are those moments where he's like, "Oh, thank you," and all that stuff, and I don't know, playtime with Peter and Harry, whatever. I don't know. I just got more of a interesting relationship that again, I don't read the comics and I mostly watch the Spider-Man movies, so I just have that information from those relationships.
now I'm gonna say this real quick, and I'm gonna let y'all, finish this off. As far as standout performance for me, Trey hit it on the head with Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, though, I think I am super disappointed with Harry Osborn.
Yeah.
And I think outside of what the lead actor said about this, we when we were doing our reactions to it, we said it. We was like, oh, they're gonna be pissed about this show because this show is woke as hell. It's all the way woke. It's taking no dose and it is awake. They It almost seems like some of it is so far. They just like checking boxes. Says, do we have a gay character? No, not really. You know what? Make Harry zesty as hell. Let's, they're just checking off boxes and stuff for no. It outside of May and Peter, are they the only white people on the show?
It's only like three of them. There's only like three white folks on the show.
Yeah, it's that's crazy. And it's not like, I mean, it doesn't have to be all of one thing or the other unless you're in Wakanda or some shit.
Well,
it
but it
just
makes sense though where they are in New York.
Yeah.
They moved Peter out of Harlem into Queens. And Queens is mostly Asian and African. And then everybody else is in Brooklyn. The school's in Brooklyn.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it, but I just know that for whatever, especially, kind of the same conversation we had about Brave New World last week. Marvel doesn't Marvel
about people that have a problem with it.
Marvel doesn't need okay right now. They need home runs. They need to knock it out of the park. And I think that was, to the part where you're already going to see some stuff that's going to be problematic. It doesn't bother me, but I was just like, okay, well, if y'all want a home run, y'all wrote some stuff in here that no, y'all going to get a bunt.
And we do have a character that is gay or bi. That's Nico.
Oh yeah,
Nico.
She is. But that hasn't been explored on the show yet. But if you know her character, then you know that
they alluded to it.
They alluded to it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Especially just looking at
they
Pearl.
were both looking like they were both checking out the same lady. You know what choice I would have wanted? I would have wanted not Norman, his son. Sorry, you mean
Harry?
Yeah, excuse me. There we go. Just cast Jaden Smith as the voice actor. Problem solved. Jaden Smith. Yeah, just get Jaden Smith to play it. Perfect.
Yeah, because then when you see the character, you'd be like, that makes complete sense.
And it makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense.
And you can just roll with it.
Yeah. But Jaden Smith crushes it in anime. His voice acting skills are hard.
Yeah.
They're good.
They're good?
Yeah, man. You watch Neo Yokio?
No.
Oh man, watch Neo Yokio. It'll change your whole perspective on Jaden Smith.
Was that the weird anime where he had like pink hair and it was
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll tell you real quick. One other standout performance in this.
Mm-hmm.
The dude, whoever the dude was that played Max Gargan, Scorpion.
Oh yeah.
Killed it.
He killed it. He did kill it.
Killed it.
Good call. Yeah.
Yeah, he killed it.
He was my favorite villain after if I'm gonna keep it a buck. He was my
Man,
favorite
he may be
villain
one of my
out the whole
favorite
series.
villains of all time.
It was good. Like, I'm legitimately worried for Spider-Man, and like, Spider-Man normally makes it, but those daggers.
But here's the thing, though. Even though
Spider-Man at
Scorpion
work.
has always
Jonathan
been part
Medina is the
of
actor's name.
Scorpion has always been part of Spider-Man's like rogue, gallery. He's never been like one of the main dudes. He was like on the B list.
There's
He was
4 of
there
them.
and he rolled with a lot of A-list dudes, but he was never that guy. When you start thinking of the real villains, again, you're going to think of the Goblin. You're going to think of Dr. Octopus. There's Mysterio. You'll think of a lot of them. You'll come around, you'll get to Scorpion, but he's on the B list. And I thought the way that he was portrayed in this show, they made him an A-list villain in this show.
Yes.
I like Daredevil's scene. I thought when Daredevil showed up, that was a hell of a fight.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Y'all just blamed all these people out here.
They're wearing a T-shirt. That's where he's talking about.
Yes, he's saying go watch Born Again. So I mean, does anybody else want to talk about any standout performance? Because I think we have beat this poor little horse into the ground.
Beat it to death. Yeah.
We beat all this to death.
Now I will announce, and I guess the question kind of is moot. Was this show binge worthy? Did it deserve? Are you looking forward to any additional seasons? It has already been greenlit for seasons 2 and 3.
I'm gonna speak on just behalf of the culture. Yes, on behalf of the culture. Yes, I think the culture needs it. Especially in this time and day and age. I just need them to just tighten up. That's all. Just tighten up. This is coming from one of the creators of Craig of the Creek, and Craig of the Creek is phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
The showrunners from Craig of the Creek, and I love Craig of the Creek, but this ain't that. It just needs some room to grow. So yeah, I just wanted to do better.
Okay, Chuck, what do you say?
Yeah, I think there definitely needs another couple of seasons. I like where the story is set up. They set up a lot of people in this. I like to know where it goes in this universe. I like how they conclude it, and I want to know what happens. Are we going to get more people? Because I feel as though some people are going to disappear, and we won't see them until like season 3. And I'm okay with that. I'm kind of open to that, actually. And I don't see how people evolve. I'm really curious.
Randy?
Oh yeah, I absolutely want a season 2. I had a lot of fun with this. And again, based on tonight's conversation, I'm more interested in this Osborn and Peter Parker dynamic and see how it plays out.
Okay. And Catherine?
Ditto, yeah, definitely interested in seeing more. And I also like to see, like, I like the character design style. I might have some slight issues with more of like the 3D elements at times, but I would like for them to do a bit more experimentation with the animation, especially considering the design style, which is Jack Kirby, that they went toward. But yeah, I would love to see more like the relationships, like this world.
Okay. Well, even though there were definite moments in here that I was underwhelmed, some of the things when they did it right, they were cooking with grease and they really did it well. And I do agree that even though I thought that episode 9 maybe was one of the strongest in the series, where the point where we got to 10, I was like, well, what we even gonna do? Like, I'm confused. I do like the way that the story is moving, and I would like to see more. I do agree with Trey that they need to tighten up. They need to tighten up a bunch. Chuck has been saying for a while that Marvel needs home runs, and this was you legged it out and got to second base, barely. You almost got thrown out at second, but we got to second base. So it was not the huge for me. Wasn't a huge hit. Like I said, I was very close to giving this a mini meal, and I decided at the last minute to give it a full meal just because I want to see it win. There are a lot of flaws in it, but I want to see it win. So I'm looking forward to whatever direction they're gonna go, what they're gonna do with it in season 2. I do want to thank all of you for being on here with us tonight. So thank you, Centel. Thank you, Trey, for dropping in. Thank you, Catherine. As always, it's good to see you down in Memphis
Memphis.
barbecue.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Randy, my other East Coast brother. We out here suffering. We, you know what I'm saying? It's already 4 o'clock in the morning and we gotta get up in 20 minutes. Uh,
Oh my
so
God.
yeah. And of course, OG, triple OG, Chuck, thank you so much. I do want to thank our technical producer in the back, Mr. Roddy Kajudo. I want to thank Crystal and everybody at Digital Click for doing all of our graphics and our marketing and web needs. If you need some of that stuff done for your own show, your own content, or you just need it for something, you know, business, personal wise, make sure that you reach out to Digital Click and they will get you all the way together. Now, I do, before we sign off for the night, our technical producer said that there's some comments that we should look in the comment section and address. So,
Yeah.
has anybody got those pulled up? Chuck, you got those?
I got it pulled up. Either see
Also, did we re-rate?
the funk said so keep so keep bringing on more side characters. He likes to bring on side characters. He said I don't think this is a home run, but I think they get to third base easy with
Ooh,
ease.
ooh, okay. He said they put a prime time. They put a Ricky Henderson and got on running.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. He also the funk also mentioned Pearl is a Filipina and she's
Yes,
tall to
yes,
be a
she is.
Filipina.
Yes,
She's
she's
tall to be a
black and
Filipina.
Filipina. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And Rodney said I know some tall Filipinos from Palawan.
Yes. Yeah, I'm for
Uh
it. I am for it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. The funk said I really like the cartoony scumball couple, the first two criminals with the power armor stuff. Yep,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
yep. I think they're not done with. Those are characters in this universe as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and see what else. See what Mark says. Mark says Norman Osborn is like Sinatra. Oh, that's hilarious.
That's
The
a
chairman of the
paradise.
board.
That's hilarious.
That's a paradise reference though.
Reference. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a
yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
paradise
what I said.
reference.
That's why
Okay.
I'm laughing. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah.
hilarious. Yeah. I think this is gonna be very, very interesting. I think this got around the third base as well.
Okay.
If I had to re-rate it, I'll still give it a full meal.
Okay. Now, and well, excellent segue there, sir, because we did this a little bit out of order. But so you still giving it a full meal. I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
stay at a full meal as well. Randy, re-rate it, sir.
Keep it a full binge out.
Okay. Catherine, re-rate it, ma'am.
Full meal.
Okay. And Trey.
I'm gonna keep it at the mini meal. I just wanted to just get better. That's all. It's got a lot of potential, a lot. But right
Okay.
now, it's still mini for me.
And based on our 5 scores, we still slide right in at a full meal. So this was a full meal. So definitely has flaws, but it has plenty of room to grow, and it's a solid project. So we are saying that this is definitely a property that you should binge. You should watch this. Now, remember, we're saying there are some issues, but
Uh-huh.
it is worth your time to get through these 10 episodes. They're about 30, about 30 minutes apiece. So definitely catch this. Now, we will not be on next week. So we're gonna take a week down. We were supposed to do Sakamoto Days. So we may get in a special show at some time to get to that. But if not, 2 weeks from tonight, the show I know will be going on as planned is Paradise Season 1.
Here we go.
We'll see y'all next week, or 2 weeks. See y'all in 2 weeks.
Memphis.
Barbecue? See, now you
Barbecue.
done made me hungry, Catherine.
Barbecue
Goddamn.
time. Yeah.